For more than 75 years, India prepared for a strong Pakistan, a militarily capable, hostile Pakistan. But today, India's biggest challenge is not Pakistan's strength, but its weakness. You tell me, which neighbor is more dangerous, a powerful one or an unstable, desperate one, holding more than 170 nuclear warheads? The answer is simple, as stable countries usually behave predictably, and the unstable, they don't mind crossing any line for survival. So today, let's understand why India's security challenge may no longer be Pakistan's military strength, but its growing instability. For decades, India knew exactly what kind of Pakistan it was dealing with. That challenge was serious but familiar. But today, with Pakistan, a nuclear armed state's political instability, rising terrorism, economic dependence, and internal insurgencies, things change. Because when a nuclear armed country becomes steadily weaker, it becomes a national security challenge for its neighbors, one that India faces today. But how did Pakistan reach this point? Ever since Pakistan was born in 1947, it has struggled with political stability. As the civilian government weakened, one institution grew stronger, the army, which with time became Pakistan's most powerful decision maker. Then came 1971, when Pakistan didn't just lose a war, it lost half of its country, giving birth to Bangladesh. That defeat changed Pakistan forever. Its leadership realized that Pakistan could never match India conventionally. So, it searched for an equalizer and found the answer in a nuclear weapon. And hence, the former Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto once said, "If India builds the bomb, we will eat grass or leaves, even go hungry, but we will get one of our own. We have no other choice." That wasn't just a speech. It became Pakistan's national security doctrine. Its objective was to make India think twice before every military decision. And in many ways, it succeeded. Because once both countries became nuclear power, every crisis carried a new calculation. While Pakistan strengthened its nuclear deterrent, many of its internal problems continued to grow. Political instability, extremism, economic dependence, regional insurgencies. Which is why New Delhi increasingly studies Pakistan's internal stability. Let's quickly understand the four internal crises that Pakistan is facing today. The first is political instability. For decades, Pakistan's army remained the country's ultimate center of power. Governments changed, prime minister came and went, but all through, one establishment remained constantly powerful, the army, who in reality governs Pakistan. It is this political instability which makes this nuclear neighbor less predictable. The second crisis that Pakistan faces is its terrorism. Ironically, Pakistan is increasingly fighting the very militant ecosystem it once helped build during the Soviet-Afghan War. The clearest example is the Tehrik-e-Taliban Pakistan, the TTP. According to the 2026 Global Terrorism Index, Pakistan became the world's most terrorism-affected country. Why should India care? Because when Pakistan is burning from the inside, they become more desperate, tempted to pin the blame on someone, which in their case is almost always India. The third crisis they face is Balochistan, Pakistan's largest province, rich in mineral and natural gas, and home of the strategically important Gwadar port. For decades, this province has witnessed an armed insurgency asking for their own freedom. In March 2025, the BLA hijacked Zafar Express, taking hundreds of passengers hostage. That wasn't just another attack. It showed that the insurgent groups were now becoming increasingly capable of directly challenging the state. Again, why should India care? Because instability in Balochistan doesn't just affect Pakistan, it also affects China's biggest strategic investment in the region, cpec. But Balochistan isn't the only place where this pressure is building. It is even in PoK, where the protest over inflation, electricity prices, and governance have repeatedly erupted. And now, even there, voices of freedom are being heard. And finally, it's their economy. Every few months, Pakistan appears to be on the verge of collapse, leading to yet another IMF bailout or some rescue package. Yet, the country survives. Because the real problem isn't their immediate collapse, it is their long-term dependence. On one hand, for its survival, Pakistan has relied on roughly 25 IMF programs, and on the other, China's influence keeps growing through loans and infrastructure. But why should India care? Because the more Pakistan depends on China, the closer China comes to India's borders. Meaning, Pakistan's weakness can become China's advantage. But Pakistan's political instability, rising terrorism, insurgency, economic dependencies, none of it threatens India on its own. But when put together, they create a nuclear-armed neighbor under immense pressure, which changes the strategic equation. But the real nuclear danger isn't the bomb, it's the behavior. It's how the state behaves when it knows it has a nuclear shield as the answer to all its military problems. That makes it a very different conversation. So, looking at all of this, when people hear Pakistan, its instability and the nuclear weapons, they imagine a nightmare, the terrorists stealing the bomb. It makes for a very gripping movie. But is it even likely scenario? Pakistan's nuclear arsenal is heavily protected. Its warheads are believed to be stored separately from their delivery systems, protected by multiple layers of security. Could something still go wrong? Well, nothing is impossible, but that's not what worries India. For the real danger lies elsewhere. See, the strange thing about nuclear weapons is that they don't just prevent wars. Sometimes they start smaller ones. Because if both the countries know that the full-scale war could turn nuclear, one side may believe that the other won't escalate, and hence they can take some risk. India has seen this before. In 1998, both India and Pakistan conducted overt nuclear tests, with which South Asia had entered a new nuclear era. And just a year later came Kargil. Analysts believe that Pakistan assumed that its nuclear capability would discourage India from escalating the conflict. Whether that calculation proved to be right or wrong isn't the point. The point is, nuclear weapons changed the way Pakistan calculated risk, and India had to adapt. Years later, after Uri, Pulwama and Pahalgam happened, India started to respond differently with its counter-strikes. Which brings us to the final question. If Pakistan's challenge has changed, how has India changed its response? Let's recap. 1999, Kargil. India fought conventionally while preventing a wider war. In 2001, after Parliament attack, India mobilized its military but stopped short of escalation. Many believe Pakistan's nuclear deterrent had limited India's options. Then came the shift. 2016, Uri. India responded with surgical strikes. 2019, Pulwama. India crossed another threshold with the Balakot airstrike. And in 2025, after the Pahalgam attack, came Operation Sindoor. Each operation sent the same message: nuclear weapons would not guarantee immunity. The question was no longer can India respond. It became how can India respond without triggering uncontrolled escalation. That is India's new strategic challenge. But military action alone isn't enough, because no airstrike can solve political instability. No missile can stop economic collapse, and no army can eliminate uncertainty inside another country. India's objective is not Pakistan's collapse. A weak Pakistan is difficult, and a shattered one could be far more dangerous. Which is why India's strategy today extends far beyond battlefield into intelligence, counter-terror capability, cyber preparedness, missile defense, and constant monitoring of development across the border. Because India is no longer preparing for one war, it is preparing for multiple scenarios. Yes, for the last 75 years, India prepared for Pakistan's strength, but the next 25 may depend on how well it prepares for Pakistan's instability. That is India's next big national security challenge. On that note, I'm Prerna signing off. This is Times Axis, where global stories meet India's perspective, because the next big global shift will have India at its center.